Ladies and gentlemen, the following podcast is set for one episode. Your hosts from Columbus, Ohio and Westfield, Massachusetts are Michael Kirk and Nathan Wagner. Welcome to the Outlaw Mudcast. Hello and welcome to the Outlaw Mudcast, your digital audio dirt sheet for all things super show. Unfortunately, my co-host Nathan Wagner will not be joining us for this broadcast. It's just going to be me today, folks. And I'm going to be, for the most part, recapping the events that occurred over this weekend from June 12th to June 16th in my hometown of Columbus, Ohio, because the 2019 Origins Game Fair has just wrapped up. And the Super Show, the Legendary Fighting Federation, has been represented as never before this weekend, running the most events in the history of SRG at Origins. So let me do a very brief recap of what happened. Origins, like I said, runs from Wednesday through Sunday. And while the main SRG booth area was open for play, on Wednesday they only ran events from Thursday through Sunday. So, the first major event they ran Thursday night was the Underworld Championship. And the man who won this event, the 2018 Breakout Star of the Year, the winner of the first ever Creative Competitor competition, Plaid Saturday, and one half of the 2018 Origins Tag Team Champions, Kirk Polka. Kirk Polka wins the 2019 Origin Underworld Championship using EC3. He faced Bobby Ohio, my former tag team partner, in the finals. Bobby Ohio used Scarlet Graves. Unfortunately, the match only lasted a few turns. The highlight of the Underworld tournament was a barn burner of a triple threat in the semifinal round. Going into the semifinals, there were 5 competitors left. Kirk Polka essentially had to play a singles match, which he won. And then Bobby O had to take on 2 other competitors in a triple threat. A very thrilling match lasting over 50 minutes. But unfortunately, Kirk Polka edged him out in the finals. Kirk Polka is the Underworld Champion for Origins 2019. Friday is the Tag Team Championships. The Tag Team Championships come down to 2 teams, of course. The Inner Circle, featuring Loudmouth Leo Larynx and the Grump Danny Thunder, taking on the team of the known as the Dangerous Alliance. 2 competitors from Michigan, Chris Pate and Sean Loeb. Sean Loeb, many of you may know as the winner of the Rust Belt Creative Competitor competition back in April of this year. Loudmouth Leo used Highwater. The Grump was playing King Greatness, taking on Combat Chris, utilized by Chris Pate, and Dosmodius, the Keeper of Prisoners, by Sean Loeb. This was a thrilling match, and in the end, the Inner Circle emerged victorious. The Inner Circle, Loudmouth Leo Larynx, and the Grump Danny Thunder are the 2019 Origin Tag Team Champions. Now, I also need to mention before I continue that in addition to the championship events that were being run pretty much every night of the convention, there had been a couple side events earlier in the day on Thursday and Friday. Thursday, we saw the Gauntlet event. Essentially, you had to take on 3 members of the SRG universe, 3 competitors, and if you were able to defeat all 3 members, you would then have a shot to face the GM John Calais and win a special, at that point, undeclared prize, opportunity, etc. Now, 2 of the 3 men you had to face during the gauntlet had already been revealed on Talk of the Universe, which was held live in Columbus Wednesday night. Those 2 men were Loudmouth Leo Larynx and Keith Pretty Boy Snow. The 3rd member of the trio, the 3rd man in the gauntlet you would have to face, was revealed at the convention at Origins, and that man was none other than the current LFF World Champion, Shady Jeff. Many men entered the gauntlet, but only one was able to defeat all 3 and advance to defeat Calais, and that was Dave Marisak. Dave Marisak took on Calais one-on-one, and in the end was able to defeat the general manager and would go on to receive a prize, which I will talk about a little bit later. Friday also saw, before the Tag Team Championship event, a Birdcage event. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Birdcage is a format involving 6 competitors. These 6 competitors are essentially put into a draft. They draft their decks, they draft their competitors, and then they play a match that involves essentially entrance. 2 men start the match, 6 turn rolls in, a 3rd man joins, another 6 turn rolls in, a 4th man joins, etc., until all 6 men have joined. Every 6 rolls, when the new competitor joins, the crowd meter increases. And while this is going on, all the competitors in the match could be eliminated by having a finish successfully played on them and failing to break out in the allotted 3 rolls. There are more rules to the Birdcage, but I won't get into that at the moment. The winner of the Birdcage event, after multiple rounds of each Birdcage narrowing to 1, and then a final competitor emerging from a final Birdcage, was Jacob Maynard of Louisville's Comic Book World. Jacob Maynard used the Shane Strickland competitor to win. Alright, that brings us through Friday. Saturday featured the most events on the SRG schedule for Origins. It opened with a Trios event. This is an event where a single player uses 3 competitors. The second event of the day was a singles free-for-all. This event would essentially feature a single elimination tournament with 1 man emerging, and the last event of the day would be the 2019 Origins World Championship. So, starting with the Trios. After many rounds, the Trios match came down to 2 competitors. The first competitor is one half of the 2019 Origins Tag Team Champions, the Grump Danny Thunder. The Grump used Scott Prime, Various, and Merlin Von Berlin as his trio team, taking on one half of the 2018 Origins Tag Team Champions, Slash Gordon. Slash Gordon used the Tiki Twins and my co-host's favorite competitor, Lemmy Adam. This match ended in a victory, the second victory for this man, the Grump Danny Thunder, a two-time winner of gold at Origins. The middle event of the day, the singles free for all, was won by Shane Strickland using Anthony Gangone. This victory earned him an automatic entrance into the top cut of the final event of the day, the 2019 Origins World Championships. Now, there were some other events not on the schedule that took place this weekend. First, in a shock to all of the attendees, one half of the current LFF Tag Team Champions, Stephen Hines, shocks the world by showing up at Origins, coming in riding on the shoulders of his tag team partner, the Big Guy. And now Big Money is at the convention. Not only is Big Money at the convention, but Saturday morning, they grant a championship match to the Inner Circle, who had just won the Origins Tag Team Championship. And the Inner Circle is able to once again obtain victory. Not only winning the Tag Team Championship for Origins, but winning the Tag Team Championship for all of the Legendary Fighting Federation. Congratulations to the Inner Circle. That is truly an amazing accomplishment. The second match, not on the schedule for Saturday, that took place before the 2019 World Championships, was an actual defense of the LFF World Heavyweight Championship. Shady Jeff takes on the winner of the Tournament of Champions at the Grand Gathering, Austin Pogue. Austin Pogue, the challenger, using Amazing Red, would take on the current champion, Shady Jeff, who, as many of us know, is using Aerial Lipstick. Unfortunately, due to circumstances beyond anyone's control, the match went to a no contest, to be resumed or replayed eventually in the future. I do not want to get into too many details out of respect for all parties involved, but I will say that we wish everybody in the LFF the best, and we hope these two competitors can get together again soon and give us a match. I can tell you, watching the match prior to the no contest, it was one of the most exciting matches I had seen for not just the weekend, but in the history of the LFF World Heavyweight Championship. This will lead us into the 2019 Origins World Championship Tournament Saturday night. The field is cut to a top 12, then to a top 6, featuring 2 triple threat first fall matches. The first triple threat is won by the former All-Ohio champion from Rust Belt Championship Wrestling, Matt Nealon, using El Super Hombre. The second triple threat match is won by a name I've already mentioned multiple times on this show, Loudmouth Leo Larynx, using as he used in the tag championships, High Water. High Water takes on El Super Hombre in the finals. And in essentially a blink and you'd miss it match, Loudmouth Leo Larynx wins 3 successive turn rolls, plays a lead, follow-up, finish, and Matt Nealon is unable to kick out of the finish. Loudmouth Leo Larynx is the 2019 Origins World Champion. Both he and the Grump, Danny Thunder, win championship gold 3 times in almost a 24-hour span. That may be a feat that has never before been accomplished in the history of the LFF. Congratulations to those men. Congratulations to all the champions at Origins. And now we are on to Sunday, the last day of SRG events at Origins. First, an unscheduled event. A 6-man birdcage featuring some of the men that I've mentioned earlier. This 6-man birdcage match, the winner of the match, would be a future recipient of a championship opportunity for the LFF Underworld Championship. These 6 competitors are as follows. James Booker, using Mr. Ray. Bobby the Brain Dunn, using JT Dunn. Sean Loeb, using David Starr. The newly reinstated Director of Operations, Dave Marisak, using the Cyclone. South Bell, using Flip Smiley. And Jacob Maynard, using Shane Strickland. All of these competitors had won their spot in the birdcage for various accomplishments. And in the end, the winner of the birdcage, the current inaugural and 2-time LFF Online League Dark Web champion, South Bell, wins. South Bell will have a future shot at the LFF Underworld Championship. And now, the last main tournament of Origins, the 2019 Origins Tornado Tag Championship tournament. The winner of this tournament will not just be the Origins Tornado Tag Champion, but will become the LFF Tornado Tag Champion. After the cut, the finals match is a triple threat match. This match would feature another former All-Ohio champion, James Booker, using L Super Sons, Christopher Randolph, using the Young Bucks, and the top interviewer in the Legendary Fighting Federation, Bobby the Brain Dunn, using Bobby the Brain Dunn and the Witch's Apprentice. This again is another very exciting match. I would say all of the multi-man matches, finals, semifinals, that I happened to witness personally, and I was actually calling this match live. You can check that out in the SRG Super Show discussion group. I hope I represented it well because it was a great match. And in the end, Bobby the Brain Dunn emerged as the both convention and LFF Tornado Tag Champion. Congratulations to him. Congratulations to all the competitors. Just on a personal note, I'd like to say I had a lot of fun at this convention. I, had my ups, I had my downs, but I have a lot of good memories. I got to meet a lot of people. Got to play a lot of Super Show. And I'm looking forward to getting together with the Super Show family community at Gen Con, less than 2 months away. So, that is the Origins recap. Now we're going to do a little deck tech. And for deck tech this week, we have the deck used by Loudmouth Leo Larynx to win the 2019 Origins Tag Team Championship, the LFF Tag Team Championship, and the 2019 Origins World Championship. His High Water deck. So let's talk about High Water for a minute. High Water is a flip competitor. For those of you who are not familiar with flip competitors, essentially a flip competitor has a gimmick that can only be used once per game, once per match. And once that gimmick is used, you flip the card over, and they have a gimmick that will be used for the rest of the match. So, here is the front side of High Water. The stats are as follows. Power 8, Technique 9, Agility 7, Strike 10, Submission 5, Grapple 6. And the gimmick on the front side is, once per turn roll, when your opponent rolls strike, search your deck for a strike, add it to your hand, then turn this card over. And on the back side, once you flip it, the gimmick is as follows. Once per turn roll, when your opponent rolls strike, flip 1, then add 1 strike from your discard pile to your hand. This is actually a really good gimmick, especially in a multi-man match. 3 people rolling. In tag means they are a lot more likely to roll strike and trigger your gimmick, which can let you bring back your finish for 20 to Yuma, which we'll talk about in a little bit, and other just very good strike cards. So, in the 1, 2, and 3 slots are punch, lock up, and headlock. We stop any lead, grapple, submission, and strike cards. Pretty self-explanatory. Next up, the 4, 5, and 6 are the kick, hip toss, and arm bar. Again, these are the stop any follow-up, grapple, submission, and strike cards. 1 to 6. These 1 to 6 cards are very common. They are easy to understand. Stops are always good. 7, 8, and 9. He is playing Rolling Forearm, Call to the Crowd, and Split Finger Lock. Rolling Forearm and Call to the Crowd, we've talked about many times before. They allow you to play 2 cards in a turn, or if you have less cards than your opponent in your hand. Let me clarify that. If you have less cards in your hand than your opponent has in his hand, then you may draw 2 cards. Split Finger Lock says flip 2 cards, or take 1 card, strike that, take 1 follow-up from your discard pile and add it to your hand. This card is a very interesting card to me, but I can see its value, especially in a deck like this where you have a gimmick that allows you to take cards from your discard and add them to your hand. Flipping cards will essentially make cards available for you to add to your hand. So I can see why that would be good. And also there are many times where you have leads in play and no follow-up to be able to throw a finish. This would allow you to get a follow-up back and threaten a finish hitting and triggering a finish roll. 10, 11, and 12. Charging headbutt, Russian leg sweep, side chin lock. Again, these cards are great options in the slot. What they do is very simple. The strike says you add 1 to your turn roll for every strike you have in play. The grapple says you add the +1 for every grapple, and the submission says for every submission. Again, these are strong because they are the only cards in 10, 11, and 12 spots that trigger off of themselves. They do not need another card in play to have their effect work. Great choices. Probably the standard choice in the 10, 11, and 12 slot. Let's go on to 13, 14, and 15. These cards are Running Lariat as 13, Oklahoma Stampede as 14, and Single Leg Crab as 15. Running Lariat and Single Leg Crab are both skill stops. Running Lariat says if your agility skill is greater than your opponent's agility skill, stop any grapple card. Single Leg Crab says if your technique skill is greater than your opponent's technique skill, stop any strike. These are great because, again, Highwater has an agility skill of 10 and a technique skill of 9. In the 14 slot, Oklahoma Stampede, this is a skill card. You need to have 8 power or greater. So 8 power, 9 power, 10 power makes it eligible for your deck. Highwater has an 8 power, so you can play this. This makes sense because you could do a Falling Power Slam type card, but having an 8 power greater than your opponent's power is not the strongest. So this card makes sense. Oklahoma Stampede says draw 2 cards, +2 to your next turn roll. So then clearly winning turn rolls is very important in this game. This gives you a leg up winning turn rolls. Let's go on to the next 3 slots, 16, 17, and 18. They are Headshot, Reverse Head Drop, and Body Crush. Each one of these cards reads essentially exactly the same except for one word. The strike reads, if you have another strike in play, your next turn roll is +2. The grapple reads, if you have another grapple in play, your next turn roll is +2. And the submission reads the same thing but has submission instead of strike or grapple. Again, winning turn rolls is very important in this game. These 3 cards are obviously there to help win turn rolls. 19, 20, and 21. 19 and 21 are very familiar if you've listened to us do Deck Tech before. They are Elbow Strikes and Leg Lock. They essentially read the same. Elbow Strike says, if your opponent has another grapple card in play, stop any grapple card. Leg Lock says if your opponent has another strike in play, stop any strike. So essentially, these both let you stop any's. Stopping any is always strong. The 20 card is a Press Slam. It is also a skill card. It requires a power of 8 or greater. So this is the second and final skill card in the deck. Remember, you can only have 2 skill cards in a deck. And Press Slam reads as follows. Look at your opponent's hand. They bury all submission cards. +2 to your +3 to your next turn roll. Again, that's very strong. Essentially, it gets rid of submissions. Submissions stop strikes. Highwater's gimmick is geared to getting strikes in his hand and playing strikes. So this will help him be able to play strikes. 22 through 24, he is playing in the 22 slot, lariat over the top, in the 23 slot, rolling suplex, and in the 24 slot, nerve hold. Lariat over the top is one of my favorite cards. I'm usually playing head drop driver or maybe boot choke, but they essentially all three do the same thing. You bury one card in your discard pile. You look at the top 4 cards of your deck. You add one card of those top 4 to your hand. Then you put the others back on top of your deck in any order. I've talked about this type of card before. I like it. I think it's great anytime. I think it's really good late game. Big fan of this card. 23, rolling suplex. I don't usually play this kind of card, but I'm going to read what it does. It says flip 2 cards, add 2 grapples from your discard pile to your hand, or draw 1 card. So this is going to allow you to flip cards, which with his gimmick, flipping cards, gives you cards that you can potentially, through the gimmick, add to your hand. Adding 2 grapples from your discard pile to your hand can be very strong. It can give you a needed stop, especially because there aren't that many, for example, submission stops in this game. The 2 slots that would normally feature submission stops, which are grapple cards, stop submissions. The 14 and the 20 are both the skill cards, so this would allow you to get back, say, a submission stop, or just a submission finish, or any good submission card. But this can be a very good card, especially late game, recurring the finish to be able to play it is a good idea. And if nothing else, if you flip 2 cards and you have no grapples, you can always draw a card. So you're not essentially wasting it. You flip 2, you didn't flip the grapple, you can at least draw a card. And then nerve hold, take 2 cards from your discard pile, shuffle them into your deck, and draw 2 cards. Just a nice way to recur some cards. I've played this in multiple decks. It's very good. 25, 26, and 27. Backlash with the ladder, fallaway slam, backlash with the steel chain. So fallaway slam is your basic stop any submission card. I like this play here. Obviously, he needs submission stops. He didn't have any in the 14 to the 20 slot, so it's important to have one here. Because he had grapple stops and strike stops in essentially 13, 15, and 19, 21, he's going a little aggressive here with the backlash with the ladder and backlash with the steel chain. These cards will allow you to stop, finish grapples, and strikes respectively. They require the crowd meter to be crowd meter 1. So, they won't work on crowd meter 0, but you do have the crowd meter 0 bonus in singles. So I do like this play. It's a little aggressive, but I like it. Both cards let you draw 2 cards. Each one has a different effect afterwards. The backlash with the ladder says you discard 1 card your opponent has to play. The backlash with the steel chain says your opponent buries 1 random card in their hand. Either way, you're essentially doing damage to your opponents. I like these choices. I like the aggressiveness of these choices in this deck. And finally, we have the 3 finishes, 28, 29, and 30. 28 and 29 are actually high water finishes. 420 to Yuma and DDTHC. So, we'll start with the strike, 420 to Yuma, plus 3 to grapple. It's going to make the grapple a 9. Draw up to 2 cards. Bury up to 10 cards in your discard pile. Your opponent draws and buries the same number of cards. So, very interesting text. It gives you a lot of options. I think it's interesting. I don't know how it would play exactly. I don't know I don't know how I would play it exactly, but it's very interesting. The number 29 grapple, the DDTHC, +1 to power, +1 to technique. Essentially makes your technique a 9, your power. Sorry, it makes your technique a 10 and your power a 9. If your opponent breaks out, all players shuffle all cards in play into their deck, and you draw 1 card. That's a very interesting card too. I can see some options for this. It's very interesting. And then 30 is using arguably the best generic finisher submission wise in the game, Sharpshooter, which reads simply if your finish roll is 7 or less, it is +2. Again, that takes care of your botch. It changes your base stats from 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 to 7, 8, 9, 8, 9, 10. I can't talk about enough how good this card is. It's just good. And that was the deck of the 2019 Origins World Champion. Thank you to Loudmouth Leo Larynx for allowing us to use this deck and allowing us to talk about this deck on the show. Alright, and I would like to now go ahead and talk about some of the new competitors that have come out for the game. We did this for some of the characters that were released at the Grand Gathering. We have since had some characters that released at Origins. We talked about one of them last week, Rhaegar the Dragon God. By my count, there are 8 that we have not discussed. So I'd like to go ahead over the next 4 weeks and talk about 2 of them a week. So this week, we're going to talk about Bobby the Brain Dunn, a competitor which we talked about earlier because Bobby the Brain Dunn used it to win the LFF and 2019 Origins Tornado Tag Championship, and the Zombie, or maybe just rather Zombie. So, start with Bobby the Brain Dunn. Bobby the Brain Dunn's skills are as follows. Power 10, Technique 7, Agility 5, Strike 8, Submission 9, Grapple 6. And his gimmick is, once a turn roll, if your opponent won the last turn roll, you may re-roll your turn roll. So, it's going to give you essentially a lot of second chances to try to win your turn roll. I like that. I actually like that gimmick quite a bit. So, he has 3 finishers. His first finish, the Strike, Artful Dodge. +2 to agility, +1 to strike. And if you re-rolled your last turn roll, this card is also a follow. I like that part. It's going to make his strike a 7, so it takes away his botch. Sorry, we say that. It's going to make his agility 7, which will take away his botch, and his strike a 9, so it basically gives him 6, 7, 7, 9, 9, 10. Very interesting. Number 29 is his grapple finish, Top Buckle Brainbuster. +2 to agility, +2 to grapple. So again, it'll take away his botch. His 5 goes to a 7. And it takes away his 6. His 6 goes to an 8. So now he's going to have stats of 7, 8, 7, 8, 9, 10. And if you rolled your last turn roll, double these bonuses. So far, these finish cards are designed to sort of work with his gimmick. If he's able to double these bonuses, it'll make his strike a 9. It'll make his agility a 9 and his grapple a 10. So it'd be 10, 7, 9, 8, 9, 10, which is very good. And then finally, his finish submission, a spotlight finisher, the killer interview. When this card is in your discard pile, if you re-rolled your turn roll and roll the same skill, you may add this card to your hand. So a very nice. There are no skill bonuses on this. It's just going to be naked roll plus crowd meter bonus. Assuming you don't have any cards in play that give a bonus to finishes or submission finishes, etc., etc. This is going to be a finish you can get back and play over and over. And that is Bobby the Brain done. I don't like giving a grade on this show, but I like him. I look forward to playing him. I like him quite a bit. He is very much about triggering that gimmick. So that was Bobby the Brain done. Again, congratulations to him. And now on to the zombie. The zombie we've talked about for a while because my local GM, Colin Simon, is the creator of the zombie. So the zombie skills are as follows: Power 7, Technique 8, Agility 6, Strike 9, Submission 5, Grapple 10. And his gimmick is a very interesting gimmick. Once a turn roll, when your turn roll is at least 3 less than your opponent's, add 1 non-finished card from your discard pile to your hand. So, essentially, what this means is this. If your opponent rolls a 10, and you roll 5, 6, 7, you can add a card from your discard pile to your hand. If they roll a 9, and you roll a 6 or 5, they can add it to your hand. And if they roll an 8, and you roll 5, you can add 1 non-finish from your discard pile to your hand. So, that's a very fair gimmick. Here are his finishes. The finish strike number 28, the Dead End. It is a spotlight finish. Plus 3 to agility. It makes his agility a 9. When the crowd meter is 2 or greater, and this card is in your discard pile, ignore non-finish in your gimmick. So, this card being in your discard pile will allow you to, when your gimmick triggers, you can either go back and get this card, or if you have either of the other 2 finishes in the discard pile as well as this finish, you can go get those cards through your gimmick and add them to your hand. And we'll start with the first of 2 you can add to your hand. The finish gravel, the Grave Digger. Plus 2 to power, plus 1 to technique. This raises the power and technique both to 9s. It gives you 3 9s. Bury 2 cards in your opponent's discard pile, and your opponent randomly buries 1 card in your hand. Obviously, for a Gravedigger, a lot of burial makes sense. And finally, the finish submission, the 3-handled, moss-covered Abernathy Family Credenza. Perhaps the longest finisher name in the game. Plus 4 to submission, so it makes your submission a 9, giving you 2 9s, taking away your botch. Your opponent randomly reveals 3 cards in their hand. Choose 1 to discard, 1 to bury, and 1 to put on top of their deck. So it reminds me quite a bit of a Hype the Crowd. Obviously, it's a little different. But I do like this. Again, I'm going to give both these cards a positive feeling. I like both of them. I will probably check in with Nate briefly to see what he thinks about them next week. But that is going to do it for our show for the week. That is all I have to talk about. I know this is a little bit of a shorter show than normal. I'll look for a little more analysis next week. I look forward to having Nate back on the show. But let me go through the list of playgroups. We had a lot of new players introduced to the game over the weekend at Origins, and if you happen to be listening to this broadcast and you do not know about playgroups in your area, I hope this list can be of help to you. So, I will start in the Cleveland area. Rust Belt Championship Wrestling plays at Recess Games in North Olmsted, Ohio, Monday nights at 6 p.m. In the Pittsburgh area, City of Champions Wrestling plays at Titan Game Shop in Hopewell, Pennsylvania. They are currently playing Sunday afternoons, weekly. In New York City, the LFF New York plays Tuesdays and Friday nights, 7 p.m. at a Store of Fire and Dice in Lynbrook, New York. If you're in my hometown of Columbus, Ohio, Buckeye Championship Wrestling, we will play Saturdays at 6 p.m. We normally have our casual nights at the Guard Tower. We will also do a larger monthly event. That is the Guard Tower East, and it's usually at 3 p.m. on Saturdays. True American Heroes will play at Frontline Games in Clarksville, Tennessee. They're usually playing Saturday night, 6 p.m. as well. Florida Cardboard Wrestling plays at House Rules Gaming in Kissimmee, Florida. Michigan Wrestling Alliance plays at Fun for All Comics and Games in Ypsilanti, Michigan. Destiny Games SRG Super Show plays at Destiny Games in Westland, Michigan. They play Wednesdays nights at 6:30. Fanfare Comics plays at Kalamazoo, Michigan, the second and fourth Sunday of the month, starting at noon. Sin City Wrestling plays at Atomic Trading in Las Vegas, Nevada, Friday nights at 6 p.m. Wizards Card Championship Wrestling plays at Wizards Asylum Comics and Games in Norman, Oklahoma. There is also, and I do not have the full details, I hope to have those soon for you, a playgroup in Massachusetts around the Boston area of the state. I do not have details on that, but I would urge you to reach out through the SRG Super Show discussion group. The gentleman that is behind that group is active in behind that play group is active in the discussion group, and he should be able to give you details if you're looking for a place to play. And that will do it for our show. If you have any questions or comments, if you would like to leave any feedback, if you'd like me to add your playgroup to my list of playgroups and promote those at the end of our show, please reach out to us. You can reach out to either Nathan Wagner or I on Facebook. We are just through Facebook Messenger. You can email us. We are outlawmudcast@gmail.com. That's outlawmudcast@gmail.com. Or you can send us a direct message on Twitter. We are at Outlaw Mudcast on Twitter. For my co-host Nathan Wagner, who hopefully will be returning next week, this is Michael Kirk. This has been the Outlaw Mudcast. Thank you, and good day.